Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I provide online valuation services for mediation and litigation based in St. Louis, Missouri. Today, we'll be discussing business valuations in divorce and the discovery process with Catherine Shanahan. Catherine's a Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, or CDFA, and Daily Money Manager, or PDMM. She also has a lot of other credentials, and she is the co-founder of mydivorcesolution.com. She's been trained in mediation, collaborative divorce, and financial planning. She is fully dedicated to helping clients kind of navigate through the divorce, including kind of understanding their financial future post-divorce. Welcome, Catherine. People will call me and say, well, is my spouse entitled to my business? Like I had a woman call the other day that said, my husband doesn't want to get a business valuation because he doesn't want me to take any money out of his business. And I was like, well, let's dissect that a little bit. Like the business becomes a value that sits as a number. The house becomes a value that sits as a number. Okay. And then we start to move and then you add in all of the other things that you own and the debts that you have. And then we start to move them around to different buckets. Okay. It doesn't necessarily mean that the business is worth 500,000 and you're going to take 250,000 out of the business. Right. Let's talk a little bit about like, what do you hear business owners kind of talk about concerns? Because I think a lot of times they're not the right concerns.
Right. It's funny when you say that, because I think about if Karen and I were to dissolve our company, My Divorce Solution right now, would I just walk away and say, Karen, you get to have everything, even though we've worked so hard over the past 6 or 10 years, whatever it is, I'll just say goodbye and you get to keep it all? No. So if my spouse wants to walk away and we've been married for 20 years and he's built that business, why would I just walk away from that? Mm-hmm. So get in the mindset that if you're part of that, if it's a marital estate and you're part of that marriage, that's your right to have that. Whether or not you choose to negotiate it away is up to you, but it is your right to have that. So it always makes me chuckle when the business owner spouse says my wife or our husband are not entitled to that. It's really just like any other business being dissolved. Mm-hmm. So the other thing is when we do budgeting with our clients, it's really very interesting that when you ask them about their car payment, well, I don't know, the business pays for that. Or what about your child's tuition or the car expenses for your children? I don't know, the business pays for that. I just use the credit card and the business pays for that. So why would the spouse who's allowing that to happen in their business now suddenly think that that's not part of an income stream? Mm-hmm. That is how expenses are being paid. So many families do this, and I get why they do it. It's a great tax savings for them to do that. But now when you're dissolving a marriage, we really have to add that all back in to the business. So are we taking an equitable distribution or are we taking an income stream? Which I'm sure you could talk a little bit about how they affect the overall value of the business when it comes to distribution of the assets.
Well, and I think that business owners and spouses, I think just couples in general kind of have preconceived notions about what the business valuation even means. And I think that the reality is, in a normal, real conflicted case, each side's going to hire an attorney. Each side's going to hire a valuation person. So now you're paying for 2 people to do the valuation, and then they're not going to agree. It's impossible. You're never going to get the same number from 2 people, 3 people, 100 people. And so now maybe we have a third person, or now we have to fight about those valuations. And you have 2 credible valuators that the judge is going to be like, you both look pretty smart. Maybe I'll just average it. Like you're at 500,000, they're at 1.5 million. It seems like those are completely different numbers, but like, how about we just go in the middle at $1 million? Does that call it even? And so realistically, if you get smart people involved that really just want to help you understand the financial picture, then I think that is when because there's consistency, right? If we're going to look at the business and there's also the business money is flowing as a salary, We just need to make sure that we are taking all of the financial pieces and using them not even evenly, but we are making sure that we're doing it properly, right? If we're removing something out of the business and we're adding it to the personal balance sheet, we're being consistent and we're being kind of clear in what that looks like. And I think that is when people start to work together a little bit more and they get somebody involved like a CDFA or a financial person or a business valuator. You're really just trying to work with somebody that's going to give you an accurate picture. Not say, oh, you want the value to be higher? You want it to be lower? You don't want to give her a thing? You don't like him? He cheated, she cheated. It doesn't matter. These are numbers. And realistically, the truth is going to come out at some point. I don't know why people waste a lot of time at the beginning fighting about even giving a document. And that's where you guys kind of come in this process is if everybody starts on an even level of information and then you layer on the legal issues or the state issues, things are going to fall where they are. You don't have a lot of control of just saying, well, you're just not going to value my business. If you don't know what it's worth, then we don't have to split it. That's not how the court's going to work.
And I also believe it's not only just the level of information that you're receiving, it's a level of understanding that you both have when it comes to the dissolution of not only your marriage, but of a business entity. That becomes very emotional to the business owner, just like the marital home becomes very emotional to whoever the homemaker of the family was. But what the business owner has to realize, and why I totally agree that they should be giving their balance and income statements, their past 3 years of profit and loss statements, their tax returns, if it's not on their Schedule C of their personal income tax returns, the entity creation documents, so that you know who actually is involved in the business and what their roles are if they have any partnership agreements. Because in the partnership agreements, they could have buy-sell agreements. They can have insurance products involved in there. They could have wording in there that it pertains to if the partners divorce. There's so many things to look at. But if you're being forthcoming with that, the two of you, the spouses, can come to a level of understanding what you're looking for here. Or am I looking for a buyout? Am I looking for you to just show me that you didn't dissipate any assets that could have been marital? And if you're wavering on that, you're almost showing yourself to be a little guilty, which makes it worse for the two of you. But typically the spouse who's not involved, I don't really see many of those cases where that spouse wants the business. They don't really want the business. So if the understanding is there that I don't really want your business, I don't want your family business from generations, I don't want the business that you did for the last 30 years. However, I want an income stream from it, or I want a buyout, whether it has to do with the other assets. And so let's come to a fair understanding. I have had so many, more than two handfuls of times where a happily married couple who 5 or 10 years later decide they're not happily married had a value to that business in bedroom conversation or in kitchen table conversation. Honey, if we sold now and retire when we're 65, the business is going to be worth $1 million. Or, honey, 5 more years, this will be worth $500,000. And they have it in writing, whether they did an email or they just jotted the memory down. I always wonder how many times, Melissa, do you think that you've done an evaluation and really came around to a value that was just thrown out there at some time? That if they could have had that conversation with you, or it was an understanding that both parties had that they believed that it was worth. And if they came to you and you said, you know what, that's about dead on, you know how much money they would save than just fighting through all this paperwork, because you're a logical thinker, you know the numbers, you see them, and you could kind of line it up as that's your third appraisal, basically. And I always say, gosh, that's probably dead on in most cases, depending on when you get the information.